What's up, everybody? Gotta shift over here so I center up. Getting ready for a back and bicep workout. Actually, my live workout on Saturday. Well, you know that you're probably watching this on Saturday. But we did a Q&A for the members of the channel, but I wanted to share those answers and questions and answers with you. So let me delve right into it here. I'm gonna save probably the longest answer question, which was from Vince, for the end, because I actually typed something out for that because I had to go decently in depth, and that's talking about food. But anyway, starting right off, we got a question from Monkey Boy 1826. Thank you so much for being a member, by the way. Hey, dude, I have two questions. One, what you plan to do for your workouts once fall and winter take effect? Take. So although it does get decently cold, I mean, it's not insulated at all in here. It's never that terrible when you're working out. If I was just sitting out here, like, what'll happen with the Q&As, that's probably the good question. I'll probably just have to layer up and throw the hat on or something. But for the workouts themselves, once I do a set or two, everything warms up and it's actually kind of a nice temperature. I would say I prefer the cold probably to the 90, 95 degree, because when it's cold, like I said, you warm up and you get to like a decent temperature. When it's hot, you just get hotter and sweat and lose a ton of weight. So we should be good. The only thing is with the farmer carries, occasionally I have to be a little cautious if it's like icy or anything like that outside. I do have a set of pretty solid winter boots that my wife got me, so I use those once or twice for farmer carries and didn't have any issues. But hopefully, like last year, we'll get like 2 snowstorms and be good, because I had to do very little shoveling last year, so that was nice. And then second part of that question, what do you plan to do once you reach your goal weight? Well, right now we're kind of in a maintenance phase, and I'll talk a little more about that when we get to question number 3. But 220 is far off. I mean, 220, just adding a bunch of body fat, yes, I think that'd be doable by the end of the year. But I don't want to do that. Like, now that I've done my first bulk, I would say successfully, and retained a lot of that. Like, I started at 187, bulked my way up to 213, 215 at peak, and then dropped back down, and now we've kind of stabilized around 205. And I started another bulk and worked up to 209, 210, but then my body just kind of naturally gravitated back towards that 205, 206. So I think that's where my body wants to hang out for a little while. It's obviously entirely due to calories, because I'm not consuming enough calories, but I am still consuming a decent amount of calories, and we'll get into that. But once I reach my goal weight, I mean, really what next steps are to do an actual strongman contest. There is one in April, and there's a couple things I'd need to be able to do for that. I think there was a stone event. The carry event, I think I'm on point. I'll be able to crush that if they have one. And there's a deadlift. It's difficult because there is a it was like an amateur class or something like that, where anyone who's never competed before can do it. But a lot of the weights, like 405 on deadlift, the log press was like 180 something, which, especially if I'm doing a push press, I'm sure I could crush that for 10. I think I'd probably have more fun doing the higher rep one, and I probably honestly would get less burnt out, because when you're going super high rep, like you're doing a set of 20 on something, you're gonna be absolutely toasted. If you just do a set of 3 to 5 on deadlift, yeah, you're gonna be a little tired, but you're not gonna be absolutely wrecked. So we get some coffee here. Yeah, I would say that's really the plan once I get around the weight I want to be at. Over the winter, I do find it's typically easier to gain a little more weight. So maybe we'll get up to the 210, 215, and that should put me in a good place for the contest in April. Again, I haven't signed up or anything like that. That's just on my mind because there's one in Connecticut that's held at a place called Lightning Fitness. It's decently close to here. I've been there a couple times. I've trained some people there, and I think that would be a lot of fun. But again, I just like lifting, so if I don't do it, it's all good. If I do it, I think it'll be fun. We'll just have to see how things are feeling. The back recovery is going really well. Knock out that 500-pound deadlift. So yeah, that's the plan. The weight classes, I think it's actually 231, so I'd still have room to fill out even more, I guess, if I wanted. But I think if I weighed 220, I am sure that all my lifts would be even better than they are before. All right, great question, Monkey Boy 1826. And question from John Fisher 7757. Thank you so much for being a member of the channel, John Fisher. And I actually kind of jumped into answering this question right away because I thought that it might actually help John Fisher if he had a lift coming up, before I did this Q&A. But I wanted to still answer it for anyone watching the channel that might go through something similar. So they said, hey, Pat, sometimes before I lift a heavy weight, say a deadlift that's going to be close to my PB, I can feel intimidated and anxious throughout the day. I'm not sure if this is rooted in fear of failure or not. Have you ever felt this? And if so, do you have any tips for minimizing or overcoming it? Thank you. Great question. Yes, and I said this in my response to John, I feel exactly the same way when it comes to those kind of like either close to PR or especially to new territory. Like I can think especially squatting, just like when I was going to battle with the 365 and I was just trying to get one more rep, my heart rate would get cranking so much so that like I would just go start the workout sometimes because I'm like, I don't even need caffeine. Like, let's just go. Let's just get this workout started. And it's kind of tough because I feel like I needed that for some of those lifts. Because if I wasn't, like, I've done workouts where I'm just kind of like, low energy, the hype's just not there, and your numbers will be down if you're trying to push to new territory. If I'm intentionally trying to kind of ratchet back the excitement or state of arousal, I think they call it, like the hype, then that's different. I've done that without doing music on stuff. But when I'm going for gold, and like say on deadlift when I was trying to get like going for the 500 pounds for 10, like something I've never ever done before, and I did it on live video too, and my heart rate was just pumping, because first of all, I've never done it before. Secondly, there's people actively watching me. People actively watching like that, I think can help. Because I'm used to lifting in a gym on my own, save from the live workouts. So that absolutely got my heart rate going. I did 8 reps and then I kind of slowed down for a second. And then I was like, no, like just 2 more. Come on, you can do it. So I think that it's tough. You kind of need some of that. I do find that it's helpful for me to write down. I've talked about this before. Write down what I'm going for on my board. And it doesn't necessarily calm me down, but I think that it increases the odds of me doing whatever I'm going for. But as far as just kind of slowing the heart rate down, I mean, dropping the caffeine down, that will definitely help. Making sure that you're going for reasonable increases. And what I mean by that, like, okay, so on bench I did 305 for 4, and that was pretty close to max effort yesterday. If I set my goal 305 for 6 or 7 on Monday, like that's going to crank my heart rate up a ton because it's kind of not really doable. But going for 5, okay, that's probably doable. So setting goals that are manageable, and going for PRs that are reasonable as opposed to these like 15, 20 pound jumps. You know what I mean? When possible. I think that makes a really big difference. Like on front squats recently, I did a 370, and that was a small increase from my 1 rep that I've done. It was a long time ago. I crushed the front squats for a while and built them up, but it wasn't this absurd like 30, 40 pound jump, Although I've done that sometimes on stuff too, but in general, I think that can make a difference. See if there's any more to that question. It's tough though, because I think, that anticipation, I suppose, I think it could be the fear of failure, but I think it's more just for somebody that likes to lift, and I like to lift, and I think, John likes to lift. I think for somebody that enjoys working out, it's just because you get this epic feeling when you hit a PR. And so it's that like, are we going to get to that feeling today? Like, are we going to push to new territory to do something I've never done before. I mean, and people downplay it sometimes, like a 5 pound PR. I'm like, no, like you've never been that strong before. Like you should celebrate that. Like be fired up, be super excited about it. And so that's part of why I think you get that hype before. So if it's like heart palpitations and maybe you got to drop the caffeine down. I know I used to have that issue when I would take pre-workout. Like my heart rate would just get going too high, and I just needed to drink less caffeine, so it wasn't as much the hype. It was just that I was consuming too much caffeine beforehand. Now I just have a water basically. So yeah, I feel like I tackled that question pretty well. I do have to say, watching somebody else do, and I said this to John, watching somebody else do heavy deadlifts. Like I watch Pete Rubish all the time because he's got some epic videos from back in the day, and he's coming back now. He's building up some solid deadlifts, and watching stuff like that, it kind of gets you more hyped, but it just gets you in the mode, in the zone. Like the problem with your heart rate being that high is like you're not able to direct it towards something. But if you watch something like super exciting that's pushing you in the right direction, getting you fired up, I think it kind of it matches things, as opposed to you're laying on the couch and your heart rate's jacked. Okay, now you're laying on the couch, you're watching something exciting. Now things are balanced out. Anyway, great question, John Fisher. And then question from Brown v 1994. Glad to be here. Glad to have you here. Thank you so much for being a member. I'll go first. We are similar weights and ages with similar goals. What's your daily calorie intake, and what's your carb, fat, protein macros look like? Awesome question, Vince. I'm gonna get some more coffee in before I answer that. So right now, I'm definitely in a maintenance stage, and this might sound like a lot of calories for someone in a maintenance stage, but remember, I stand almost all day for work, and I'm loading weights for people. I'm moving weights around. I would say I expend more energy than somebody that's at an office desk working. Nothing wrong with that job. I'm just saying, if you're seated, you're not going to burn as much energy as somebody that's standing. So I think that's part of why this calorie number is where it's at, and I'm able to stabilize. So I'm just going to run through the foods, and I did the calories and the protein, the carbs, and the fat out for each individual meal, but I'm not gonna bore you with that. I'm just gonna go run you through all the foods, and then we'll do the totals on everything. Otherwise, I think this video would be a very long video, which is totally fine. But I want to keep it. If it gets too long, then it probably won't get recommended by YouTube. So sadness. All right, so some of these foods are pretty typical. I just did yesterday because I figured if I pick the day where it's most perfect, that's not really, I don't know, that's posting a unreasonable expectation or model for people, because I know a lot of times I see people's day of eating and everything is spot on, and that is great, but it's also, in my opinion, okay to have days where, especially if you're bulking or you're stabilized, where you're not as specific with trying to hit your macros or hit your numbers or get to a certain calorie goal. You know what I mean? If you're cutting and you're trying to lose weight, then stuff has got to be on point, because if you consume an extra 500 calories in a day, that could erase the progress of your workout where you burnt those calories. So stuff just has to be a little more fine-tuned. Whereas when you're going up in weight, just putting extra calories in the system, a lot of times that plus trying to move around a little less, that's again why winter can be a great time to bulk naturally, because you're not able to go outside as much because it's cold and nobody wants to go outside. So anyway, let me get into breakfast. This is yesterday. So typically I do whole fat yogurt from Aldi, but there wasn't any. Sadness, so we lost a good amount of calories there, probably 200 or so, because it's much higher in calories. And then I do some blueberries with that. I do some honey Then I go coffee with milk. If anybody's interested, I could like post this on the I could post this on the oh, you know what I could do? Here. Let me just hold this up so you can see. There we go. And that way, if you wanted, you could just pause the video to see exactly what I do for food. Okay, now we'll get into it. Just because I typed it all out, so I'm like, all right, I do want to share it, but I don't want to work through all of it because that would take a super long time. All right, so we did that. We did the coffee with milk. There was that typically we do coffee with milk and maple syrup, but we didn't have any maple syrup, so sadness. Then we went out to eat somewhere. Got an egg wrap, which was excellent. Probably a little low on the calorie estimate for that because it was a I don't know, it had like beans and corn. It was really good. Probably like 3 eggs total. And then cinnamon roll. Obviously, you got to get the carbs in. That was excellent. Shared some of that with the little guy. He was a big fan of it. Don't worry, his diet is healthy, but occasionally a little bit of carbs. Then we also got half a coffee there. So yeah, there's probably 2 days a week where I'll end up having 2.5 coffees. Otherwise, I just have the one in the morning, and then I have the one before the workout. But that was a special day, and so we did that. There's this place near us that we really like to go to, and it has a nice field and a bunch of trees where a little guy can run around and play. So we go there occasionally during the week. Then we had some I had some naan bread for lunch. Made this tuna melt thing. It was pretty epic. Then just canned tuna, basic canned tuna. If you're trying to get your protein up, look, it may not be the most appetizing thing, but one can takes maybe like a minute to consume and can get you anywhere from 20 to like 28 grams of protein. So we always have that on point because sometimes I'll be like, say I'm closing in on my rough goal for calories, or I'm just hungry post workout. I'm like, all right, I got to get something in, but I don't want to cook tuna, or maybe I don't have time. Crack open the can, good to go. You drink the tuna water. Not go crazy. All right, so then we had some cheese with that. The cheese was actually a big chunk of the calories. Tomato soup, because my wife made homemade tomato soup Thursday night. It's amazing, very, very good. Let's see, we total there. Then we did pre-workout coffee. Again, no maple syrup. So typically the carbs for the day would be higher, but we didn't do the maple syrup there. Honey, 2 servings, just down the hatch to get the carbs in. I do that if like the clementines have gone bad that we got, or the bananas are out, something like that. Crushed the workout. Then we went bread, homemade bread for my wife, sourdough bread, excellent. More tomato soup. It's not typically what I do before and after, but when your wife makes a homemade meal, what I typically do before and after, it's usually banana before, banana after, and yeah, it's not typically tomato soup, but it was there and it's really, really good. So I wanted to consume it while it's still fresh. Did some cheese actually. Typically I keep it more just carbs and protein after the workout, but I felt like getting a little more in. And this was a double going out day because there's a there's an ice cream place near us, and so we took the little guy. Another place where the little guy can run around. They've got a bunch of farm animals. They were doing a music thing there. We didn't stay for that, but we saw them setting up. Yeah, they have pig, chickens, goats. A little guy likes to go over and say hi. They have a playground. So, and again, this is just to show that, even though I work out every day, I'm a personal trainer, I still consume those foods that are kind of frowned upon. Like can't eat ice cream, can't eat this, can't eat that. It's all getting burned off. So in my mind, I'm like, that's okay. If I was trying to cut, like the ice cream here, 286 calories, it depends. Like, did I need to have the 286 calories to hit the base number for the day? I mean, maybe, as long as I'm still in that deficit that I needed to be, all good, right? No worries. All right. Ketchup. Oh, dinner, 2 burgers. So we made burgers, ketchup, sourdough bread. Again, excellent, homemade. Second dinner, obviously, I eat again at like 9 o'clock usually. I just like grabbed the burger and housed it. And then total calories for the day, 3,172. Probably normally be around 3,600, but the whole fat yogurt and then the maple syrup in the coffee. And then I did back check and add everything up, and I was off by like 40 calories. So that was kind of annoying, but I didn't have time to go back and check it again and figure out where I went wrong. So I just said, all right, we're close enough. Fat total, 1,100 calories from fat, 131.6 grams of fat, 1,292 calories from carbs, 323 grams of carbs, and then 734 calories from protein, and then 184.5 grams of protein. If you averaged out all the days, probably you would see that protein would be a little higher and that fat would probably be a little lower and then carbs a little higher. But I wanted to just pick a day and go for it, and not just kind of sugarcoat things, no pun intended, so that you could see that, yes, I do eat, cheat meals as it were. Especially when, like, I think I weighed in pretty low on Thursday. So I was like, all right, I know I'm in a slight deficit. I can get some, more calories in the day after. The previous food day, when I was really like seeing a pound to 3/4 pound increase every week, I was right around the 45 to 5,100 calorie mark. So I know where I need to get to if I want to start increasing the weight again. But for now, I think we're gonna stabilize. So great question, Vince. Really appreciate the support from everybody, and thank you, members, for the Q&A questions. I'm going to jump into my live video now, but I hope you have an awesome day, and drop any comments, questions, concerns, really anything you have, and also drop your favorite ice cream flavor, because I've been enjoying the ice cream lately, and it's going to be sad because another month everything's probably going to close as far as ice cream goes. We have an ice cream place decently close to us, and yeah, it's going to be sad. I think what did I get yesterday? It was like graham cracker vanilla chocolate crunch or something. It was really good. All right, that's it. Peace.